Signals on 91.3 Lagos stocks. Well, Signals business is over. I've been waiting. Anyway, we'll go straight to the business of today. And we're talking the voice of the citizen. So I'll tell you what happened within the week. I and my colleague attended the WIMBIZ Women in Business. It was a 2-day event and it was power packed. Like it was really power packed. And in one of the preliminary sessions, there was a political session. And you know, we're in a political season. And there was a certain gentle woman, I'm going to use that. She kept talking about the voice of the citizen. And I said, okay, I was to escape. I just ran into her. I said, fine, you're not running anywhere. We're going to have her this morning. And I have with me, okay, so it's long and I'm going to read it. She is a social entrepreneur and the founder of Sesor Empowerment Foundation, a disaster relief organization which supports internally displaced persons and refugees. Before joining Sesor, she worked with the United Nations Children's Fund, Nigeria, as a private sector fundraising specialist, and with UNICEF Switzerland as a corporate alliance specialist. She has also worked in the NGO sector, including the Center for Values and Leadership Nigeria, banking, advertising, and Christian ministry. She is a strong advocate for women and displaced persons' rights and works to support economically disadvantaged women. She works sector group member Fixed Politics, a member advisory board Amnesty International Nigeria, and the list goes on. But before we continue, she recently graduated from the School of Politics, Policy and Governance, SPPG, with a certificate in public leadership and policy. She's a proud alumna of FGGC Bokok, Benue State. I hope I got that right. She holds a master's degree in political management from George Washington University and first degree in economics from the London School of Economics. She is currently, and you're going to help me out, kindly on mute. She's joining us via Zoom, and she's currently the African Democratic Congress candidate contesting for a seat in the Federal House of Rep in a constituency in Benue State, and she's going to help me to pronounce that. Welcome to Signals. I got it.
You got it. Well done. Well done. Well done.
I was going over again about.
I love it when people listen when I tell them how to pronounce my name.
I have to go to LinkedIn to go and listen. Thank you for that pronunciation, to go and listen over and over because I had to get it right. Now, I want to say it was good meeting you and thank you so much for lending your voice at WIMBIZ. Now, this morning we're talking the voice of the citizen, but before we go into that, right, I want you to tell us about, because I recently watched the video of where you were sharing reusable pads to the women in
right.
Yes, I want you to tell us about that first before we continue the program. Go ahead, please.
Okay, great. So, in fact, we work with displaced people. So recently, of course, we've heard about the floods.
Yes.
And our NGO, again, I'm so glad we're talking about the voice of the citizen through what we call the Office of the Citizen. And this is one of the things that showcases so much the Office of the Citizen. So the floods happened, and I'm in Benue, of course, running campaigns. I suspended my campaign for 7 days to focus on the floods and called on other political candidates to do the same because we're first human before we're politicians, correct?
Yes.
So we went in and with our team for Sesor. So my politician hat was off. I was talking about the NGO sector now. Yeah. And we went to the communities where they had flooding. In Benue, that was in Makudi. The floods happened mostly along the riverbanks. Farms destroyed the rice mill. It's absolutely chaotic. And we just went to do a small assessment and also take some relief materials for them. And one of our friends, that's the amazing thing. She used to be a journalist. She is still a journalist. Funke Treasure has an initiative called, I think it's the Girls Menstrual Hygiene Scholarship Program, something like that. Women's, and what they do, because of course with inflation now, if you're a woman, using sanitary pads, buying sanitary, it's expensive.
1,000 naira. 1,000.
Now, especially for those of us who are a bit older, I have fibroids, and a number of other women have fibroids. We bleed more heavily and sometimes longer. So sometimes you're bleeding for 7 days, 8 days, and it's heavy, some of it. And you need many more pads. And there's one in particular now that before it used to be 2,000, now it's like almost 5,000, 6,000 naira. That one is really long and thick. So you can wear it at night and, it absorbs better. But if you think about it, for so many people, they cannot afford those kinds of pads. They cannot even afford this 1,000 naira. So if you're on your period, you're either thinking, I'm going to use toilet paper, I'm going to use now for us, a lot of the IDPs we work with who were in like maybe camps or settlements running from Boko Haram or terrorist headsmen or whatever, a lot of them, they use rags and just rewash them, right? So Madam Treasure, bless her lovely heart, reached out to me and said, look, we're doing this thing. We have reusable pads and we'd like to give you some to take to your displaced women. Because during crisis like this, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay,
well.
great.
I can hear you.
Because during crisis like this, we tend to forget needs of women on things like this, menstrual hygiene, having proper toilets where they can go and be safe. So a lot of women, when they're in a camp or in a settlement, imagine living in a place like, Makoko or wherever, and you're having to, find a place to change your pad, or you don't even have money to buy pad. You don't even have the water to wash off after you've changed your sanitary pads. Just imagine it, So she gave us these reusable pads, said, go and give it to the women and encourage them to use them, teach them how to use them. And that's what I was doing in that video you saw, just demonstrating. There were men there. So yes, I was telling them,
I saw you telling them to be supportive.
One of them was even asking for the pad that he wants to go and give it to his mom. So because it was a thief conversation, it was in my language. Yes. And one of the women there said, is your mom not too old now? She's menopausal.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for doing that. Thank you so much for doing that. Now, as we continue, tell us the voice of the citizen. We're in the political era, and like I remember one of the comments saying that politics is a blood sport. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I mean, in some places, it's a literal blood sport. And, so one of my many hats I wear, I'm a member of this amazing group called Fix Politics, started by one of the greatest voices for women and marginalized people, Dr. Obieze Kwesili, and a number of her other friends, Alero Aida Otobo, Aisha Yusufu. We all know Aisha from that icon of NSAS and all that. So, but of course, we know the advocacy that they've been doing for years, Bring Back Our Girls. Then before then, there were others who were doing Occupy Nigeria. There's so many things, and the office of the citizen is really reminding us that we, the citizens, we, the people that we like to call the so-called ordinary Nigerian, we are the holders of the highest office in the land, and that is the office of the citizen. So that means that you have your voice and you can use it to bring about a better life, a better community for yourself, your family, your friends, your communities, and everybody around you, and protect yourself. And it's nothing necessarily new. So many movements have activated this office of the citizen. We may not have called it office of the citizen, but so many movements. If you were students in university, the protest, maybe they even don't give you good food in school, you protest that one. That is the office of the citizen. You're saying to your authorities that, no, you are here to serve us. And what you're giving us is not good enough. We need you to do better. Now, what tends to happen in our culture, we've had a culture very much of, a sort of unholy fear of authorities and authoritarian figures. And then especially if you're in a culture where, it's all about, you must respect your elders, you must respect those who are over you, you must this one. We now have an unhealthy definition of respect, where respect is not even having things done right. But the question for me is always, you that you're demanding respect, are you doing the right thing? Because if you are not doing the right thing by us, it is going to affect you, even yourself, the authoritarian figure, in the long run. So the office of the citizen really is about us exercising our voice, our rights, and our responsibilities our civic responsibilities and responsibilities to the community. So for now, of course, it's electoral season. So how does this play out? Yeah. You know, you for those of us, you registered to vote, you know, you will select the right candidate. Typically, we should look out for candidates that have the right character, the right competence, and the right capacity, right, to lead. Character being number one. Then, you know, we will go out on that day and vote. For those of us who, for some reason, whether administrative, maybe whether the process with INEC was too crazy, you went the crowds, they were closing early, and there were allegations even of people that, you know, in some places where some tribes were not being allowed to do certain things. I mean, those kinds of things. For those of us who experienced that and maybe could not get our card, we can register to be, what's that thing they're doing now? There's this INEC,
sure.
Like agents or something, you know, it's ongoing. You can register to play your part and watch, make sure that the ballots are not tampered with on that day. You know, I've heard from some political parties the way they tamper with ballots. So if you're going out there to do this thing, watch out. They will smear their finger with ink when they want to count the ballots. This is the party agents now, or whoever is agent at that polling unit. They'll put up the ballot paper, and if they see that it's not the party which has bribed them to allow them make sure they do some mago, they will smear that ballot paper so that they can invalidate that ballot paper. So now, of course, with some technological changes and all that, but us as citizens, you register to vote, you go there, no matter what logistical challenges are put in there, we stay, we watch. When we finish, we count the vote. We make sure we check the hands of all those people who are doing the make sure it's not smeared with ink. I'm telling you, these are the tricks. So make sure there's no mago, and you stay and you protect your votes. Now, we really hope that as time goes on, we as citizens can begin to call out and say, well, let us have easier ways of voting. Brazil had their elections recently, and the turnout was amazing because they simplified the process. You know, we need to simplify the process of registration and so on and so forth. But more importantly, of course, after the elections, because there'll always be a winner and a loser, Abi?
Yes.
Another part of the office of the citizen is to hold those elected officials accountable. And, you know, it sounds so big and so, but let's break it down. We all live in what we call a local government, Abi?
Yes.
We all live in what we call a council ward, right?
Yeah.
Now, one of the things as an officer of the citizen or a holder of the office of the citizen, which is you and I and all of our wonderful listeners this Saturday morning, is that we all live in one. And the first thing we have to do, our responsibility, is to find out who is your ward councillor, who is your local government chairman, and who is your state assembly representative in the House of Assembly. Find out who is your House of Reps member, find out who's your senator, and so on and so forth, so that we can begin to call them out if things are not going well. And if things are going well, we can also commend them and encourage them to do better, right? So for example, now, let me ask you, Adeomi, where do you live?
I stay around the Butimeta.
Around the Butimeta. Yes. Okay. So for example, just for argument's sake, it's been rainy season, you know, is there anything in particular? What's the number one thing that really pains you about your community, your neighborhood?
Number one, the road is bad. Number two, there's no lights. Number three, we have some police officials stop people when they're going to their houses, right? Yes. And it's very uncomfortable. I think I had a conversation with the taxify driver, and I'm like, I don't like this thing. Why are they stopping? And when it's time that the environment is chaotic, we don't see them. Right. Yes. So that is a problem for me.
Absolutely. So now you're the holder of the office of the citizen in your neighborhood. So one of the things that you could do, we've tried it in my neighborhood Okay.
Please come back. It signals on 91.3 while I'm waiting for her to come back. Okay, then. The signals, and we're talking the voice of the citizen, what you can do while political era, we're in the political season, and we're speaking with E.A. Jonathan Icheva. Yes, we'll go for this break and we'll be right back. Please don't go anywhere. Where are you? I wish wear a hat to fight so back. I wish.
There's a new cuisine in town. A glass of wine, a cup of coffee, and if you're like me, a glass of smoothie. With Signals served on Lagos Talks 91.3 every Saturday at 10 a.m. Your mind will dream again.
I wish. Oh, I'm hopeful, yes I am hopeful for today. Take this music and use it, let it take you away. And be hopeful, hopeful, and he'll make a way. That's okay, 'cause we're hopeful. Welcome back. Welcome back to Signals on 91.3. We have her back. If you have questions or comments, drop us a WhatsApp message 009-234-591.
Sorry.
It's okay. Well,
yeah, I think the network went off.
Welcome to Nigeria.
Yeah. I know, right? So one of the things just quickly to wrap up that point, is, I'm sure you have 2-3 friends or whatever who, you have the same issues. It's a pain point. Yeah. So take that pain point. And one thing I've learned is they told us they challenged us some time ago, don't agonize, organize.
Okay.
If anyone is that NSAS, that is Office of the Citizen. The way the young people are organizing now, we the youngers are organizing for candidates, political candidates. That is the Office of the Citizen. Using our own phones, using our own voice, right? Yeah. So in your case now, what I would always advise is get together and write a letter. Let's write a letter to there's a works commissioner of works on the road. You can copy the Lagos State governor, and begin to say you need your road done. You may have to spend time, go to Alausa, and you may have to just be persistent and keep pushing.
Sorry to interject. Why must it be that the people that we elect in office, we have to write letters to tell them to do their job because it's their job? And then it leads me to the question of accountability. We want people in office who we can hold accountable, but then we have to call them to come and see that they have not done their jobs. Like it's uncomfortable for me, but please explain.
So basically, unfortunately for Africa, we've had a tradition for many decades now of leaving politics to the wrong people.
Okay.
And what we've not realized, a lot of people who are competent, and this was the mistake that that was made when Nigeria was transitioning to democratic rule in 1999. We, maybe because of the problems before, blah, 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 a lot of the professionals who really meant well, did not really put themselves forward as politicians. Then a lot of us too, when we were growing up, especially if you were born in the 70s or 80s, you would hear your parents telling you things like politics is a dirty game. Yeah. Don't enter politics. Just focus on your career. Go and do your professional, blah, blah, blah. But one thing we don't realize, and we all forgot, is that it is the politicians who come in and determine how you are governed. They are the ones that will appoint your policy makers. And they're the policy makers will now in turn go ahead to bring about the people who are the implementers of those policies. So if you're now allowing your politics and leaving it to people who don't have the right character, who don't have the right competence, who don't have the right capacity, who are only going in so they can loot the treasury and gain power and money for themselves, right? You are going to have what you have. So it is unconscionable for me to see that we have publicly elected officials who, for example, have their children going to schools abroad when we have schools in Nigeria. That is why your schools in Nigeria are not working. When it is time, if you check some local governments, I remember one particular local government chairman, his people were complaining that he was local government chairman of one of these communities. I can't remember which one, but he lived in Lekki Phase 1, and he wasn't a Lekki local government chairman. But he went to go and live in Lekki and abandoned his constituent. You see it, They will abandon their states, especially those in the north and some in the middle belt, abandon their states, especially during that Boko Haram, when there's Boko Haram and there's heat, they'll go and sit in Abuja. So these are the kinds, that is the lack of character. This same lack of character characterizes everything. That is why our publicly appointed officials, they're going for hospitals abroad, even for checkup, they will go there. Meanwhile, they claim that they've given us the best healthcare. Even our, you even see it all over at the highest levels, right? So these kinds of things, if you elect people who have a conscience, who decide, no, I am going to sit here and make sure when I'm sick, I use a Nigerian hospital. And when I'm sick, I use the hospital in my community. I'm going to live in my community. They will make sure the road is working now.
Sure.
I'm going to make sure my children go to schools in Nigeria. They go to university in Nigeria. In fact, if that is made a law, right? Do you think ASU lecturers will be on strike for 8 months? Then afterwards, you're going to pay them half salary. It's not going to happen. So bringing it down to the local level is the same thing. So if you look, please, if you're listening to me and you're interested in public service, consider joining some public service group in your local community. Go for your ward meetings. If you have any, find out. Because what we've done, if you check at the local, it starts at that lowest level of the least level of governance, what do you call it? At that community level. If you go to your ward meetings or you start organizing them, if you start going to even some of those meetings, whether it's a political party meeting at ward level, you will see that a lot of the people who come there, they're people who, they're very passionate.
Yes, they are.
About being members of those groups because they get access to power. But you find that there are people who don't have necessarily the character, the competence, or the capacity. Some of them are jobless. Some of them are people we call area boys. I don't like calling it area boys, but it's what it is.
I call them our street brothers.
Our street brothers. Yes. Thank you. Our street brothers and sisters. Just people who, they don't hesitate to. They will fight over anything physically. And that's because the environment has constrained them. It's not like they lack talent or they're not good people necessarily, but it's just the way they found themselves. But when you go to those meetings, that's where, and so not much is talked about. We're not talking about how do we do the roads, how do we do this, how to do that. As a result, those who rise up in that system, they're only concerned about keeping power, about whatever. So that is why you see that they'll do the bare minimum. They may go and do the road for their friend somewhere, maybe somebody they know. And then if you harass them enough, they'll come and do your road. But be ready for some pushback, because this game where the office of the citizen, as with any office, it also comes with its own risk. That's why we talk about when you go to vote, you stay and you protect your vote. Now, one of the reasons a lot of people struggle with going to vote is they don't believe their vote will count.
Yeah. I remember at the WIMBIS conference, and everybody was asking questions about, do you think your vote will not count? And I raised my hand up, and everybody was like, I said, really? Because I'm not even sure that the vote will count. And because at the beginning of this conversation, you talked about character. If I cannot see character in the person that I want to elect, and it's sort of uncomfortable for me. We're not looking for protection, but at least the character to be able to get the job done.
Yes. So there's a lot of work. To be honest, there's quite a lot of work to do. And that's why we're sensitizing people about the office of the citizen. I mean, now, for example, it's election season. So, of course, they're going to come around your neighborhood and start campaigning. You'll see people probably going door to door.
Putting them in buses.
Yes. And if you're a holder of the office of the citizen, it's time to engage them. For example, what are we going to do about our roads? I want your number. Now, they may even get in and not answer your calls or change phones, as happens a lot. We see that a lot. Do you understand? And all that. But the office of the citizen, our job is to keep on writing, keep on pushing. Sometimes you may even have to do some of your own. Sometimes we may even get together as a community and say, okay, we're going to clean up this drainage today. The other thing you can do is to really support people who come out. Like you said, there's character, those who have character. So there are some interesting candidates out there now who are ready and willing to work and push. And I think for me, the citizen, we are waking up in the light of NSAS, in the light of Bring Back Our Girls. And one thing we should realize is we've achieved a lot. We don't know it because life here is so challenging. So we're constantly chasing issues and fighting, just trying to even get light. You're trying to get a borehole. You can even decide to factor on water. I mean, for example, what is happening with the water board? If you come towards the Lekki area where I live, everybody's on a borehole. And this is in an area that is prone to floods. So are we surprised Lagos is flooding all over the place, or lucky them, So, or that Ajah axis and all that. So there's so many issues to work on. So what I would always, I'm advocating for people to do is, we're just getting started. Let's not give up. We're a young democracy. Unfortunately, we've had things very hard and tough, but I've also realized nothing good comes easy. If you check the democracies of the UK or France, or the world's oldest, supposedly one of the oldest ones, Switzerland, I lived there for some time because of my work. You find that the people are very activist in their quiet way. So if you look at them, they're not the kind of people that just look and say, this thing is not working. There's always one old woman going to the local government office, knocking. You people didn't come to carry my rubbish today. What is going on? And they are forced to, because they know that the next time those people come for election, they're not going to get elected. And this is what we need to do. So the Office of the Citizen is here. It's here to stay. We've seen it with so many things. I don't know. I don't know if you've heard of the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, right? VAP.
Tell us more about it quickly.
Okay, so this was it's one of those, as a result of domestic violence, sexual violence, sexual and gender-based violence that have been happening for so many years. There were lots of activists who started pushing for this thing, possibly maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And it started, I think, from Lagos, people working in the NGO community, lawyers, social workers, who were seeing a lot of domestic violence cases, we're also seeing so many other things. And they started saying we need a law to protect people against violence. We need a law. And they began to engage policymakers. And I remember at that time, Abike Dabiri, they engaged her. Then she was at a time, I think also as a journalist at that time, if you check her history, she was a journalist. She covered a lot of these, she covered a lot of stories of that nature, So I guess it was an area of passion. And then, their passions connected. And when she was I think she was in the House of Reps at the time, they now worked with her and pushed through this bill, right? And got her to sponsor it. So that's what NGOs do. The Electoral Act saying, the EndSARS, a lot of the issues that have come out from EndSARS, we will eventually have to get, NGOs are working on certain things. It takes a while. And they will eventually get the laws passed, where, for example, they have to strengthen the independence of the CBN, where CBN cannot just wake up and arbitrarily shut down your account because you're supporting something that they think is against the person that puts them in power. Are you okay? I hope they don't take you off the air because of all the things.
I'm listening.
So, there are all these things, but
I guess at the end of the day,
that's the office of. Yes.
I guess at the end of the day, we need institutions that have that are standard, that is above the people in power. Because if we have strong institutions, I think one of the major things that we lack as a country is having strong institutions where people can't just wake up one day and say, no, this is not what we're going to do today.
Yeah.
Right. And be able to protect everybody at the end of the day, because everybody's a Nigerian. So
absolutely.
It signals on 91.3. If you have questions for my guest, we're talking Voice of the Citizen. Do you think that your vote counts? If you have questions, comments, WhatsApp us or call us 009-234-5913 or call us 009-191-3913. Now, I have a question from someone, and it says Nigeria as a country is just beginning to experience a new culture. This is a social media culture whereby the voice of the citizen can be heard. How are we going to engage political leaders more often in the nearest future?
I think, I don't think we should give ourselves such a bad rap. We're already engaging a lot of them on social media. Okay. We're seeing some engagement on the streets as well. Unfortunately, too, sometimes that engagement is not always like if you remember, there was one.
So we have a call. Just hold on a second. Just hold on. Hello, Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please reduce the volume of your radio set.
I have done that.
Thank you. Your name and where you're calling us from?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. I've been listening to, I don't know her name.
Her name is E.A. Jonathan Icheva.
Okay, she's really spoken well. She said everything that I was hoping she would talk about. Because at the end of the day, the anger that a lot of us have is the fact that leadership is not only from the top. Leadership starts from the grassroots. So in any local government that you are, there are nothing less than 3 to 4 leaders that are responsible for those locals. And as far as people come together to ask those people for accountability of what is happening in their locality, then the possibility of them getting change at any point in time is possible. You understand what I mean? Yeah. So I think she has spoken very well. And we should have more. I think like the one doing justice to that, more town hall meetings in different local governments. Where I heard this that she said, which I agree and I need to, that in 1999 when the military stepped down, it was the jobless and I never to do people that just came together to start governing us and all that. The very technocrats and people that are vision driven were not interested at the time because they were afraid of their lives, which I agree absolutely. But it is not late. Okay. A 33-year-old child is already being in marriage. So it's high time we rise to the occasion and start as much as possible to get like minds, like what I did in my own jurisdiction. Okay. My street is very bad. I was part of the people that ensured that I cleared gutters. I had to go from house to house contributing. Though some people never contributed, but at the end of the day, we made sure we did it. I said, no problem. So if we can do it in cities and in lives, there will be an absolutely.
Okay, then. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Your name, where are you calling us from?
Bola.
Okay, Bola.
You see, I've been to I live in UK for 7 years. In terms of democracy, we are playing I like that you are very welcome in every. You see, the way we practice it, I begin to wonder that because I've never had any certain issues in the various countries, including their countries. I've never had any.
Okay then.
So when you said we should go do that, we should go there. That's the way you are telling me because it is what it is. It doesn't have
okay. Sorry, please. Let you go because again, I do apologize. The line was breaking and I couldn't hear you. Please, ma'am, kindly unmute and then let's continue. Thank you so much for your feedback. If you have questions or comments, please send us a WhatsApp message quickly because my time is almost up and I need to, unless I have to bring you back for a part 2. Yes. So
yeah, I mean, thank you so much. Sorry?
I said the culture, the social media culture that we have. You were saying something?
Yeah. No, I was just saying thanks to the first caller. I absolutely agree. But I would say go one step further. If you're doing your drainages, cleaning it and all that, it's good to also amplify it on social media. That's what we should use a lot of our social media for. Okay. Or rather, that's one of the uses we can put it to. Amplify the good things you're doing in your community. But you're amplifying it to call attention and say, who is supposed to make sure our drainages are done? Or to even advocate for better drainage systems. So, for example, one of the big things I'm beginning to advocate for is we need closed drainage systems. Yeah. We can't have open drainages everywhere. It's ridiculous. This is what is breeding more malaria, more issues, more things, So I don't know why contractors are allowed to build roads, especially in communities, and leave them open. The drains is wrong. It's causing disease and it's causing flooding. They will say, hey, you should clean your drainages. We would have to clean drainages less if they were closed. And they had manholes where the people who are supposed to work on them in the local council can go in and clean those manholes. That is what used to happen before. So, this is something the developed world has taken care of for decades. I don't know why we're still being backwards about this. So that's something you can also advocate on in your community. You know, as you clean drainages, take it a step further. Say, oh yeah, governor, we've cleaned drainage. Oh, local government chairman, please come and close the drainage. We don't like this open drainage system.
Oh, that would be nice.
You know?
Okay. Hold on a second. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. Your name and where are you calling us from?
This is Mr. Patrick calling from Good.
Okay, go ahead quickly. 1 second.
Yeah, we see what's happening in this country. We look into that. We look up straight before we do our work. We always like to do eye service in this country. See, EFCC, they are waiting for if a politician now die. It is where they will find out all the money, all the things they have looted. Now, Ekwematu is in prison now. And now they are starting, now they have almost 40 buildings that he has. What about these people now that are in politics now, that are freely moving freely in our city here now? Okay. That EFCC go into action and find out how they go, find out what they have.
Okay, thank you.
A lot of money has been going to drain.
Thank you.
People are suffering because they have seen our money. They have looted everything in this country.
I'll do my best to answer it. Thank you so much. People are angry. What are your thoughts?
Yes. I think what we need to understand is that take that anger and use it constructively.
Okay.
You know, because the more you complain and shout and state, we've been saying this thing for too many years.
Yeah.
Take action. So if you're angry about the money going on and how it's being looted, let's start with your ward council. Find out. It's on the internet in many places. How much was allocated to your local government? It's easier for us to shout and talk because when you now start doing that work, you know, start asking those difficult questions. That's where you begin to see the real cocoa, the office of the citizen. And let me tell you, it's not easy. It's a long process. You know, like everything, every country, Rome was not built in a day, but they were making bricks every day. That's what a friend of mine says, Fumi Johnson. The other thing is that just as it takes a while for things to be built up, right? Nigeria did not start deteriorating in one day. It's been a history of deterioration over administration to administration. Something happens, we're like, I'm not going to say anything. No. We look the other way. And the office of the citizen, that's where that voice comes in. We need to stop this, our onlooking and cleaning mouth and not saying anything because maybe it's cultural or because we are afraid. Let me say this. Sometimes we don't want to shout and talk because we think they will come for us. They may send people after us. We think that somebody will come and attack us, kill us. And I'm not saying take any foolish risk, but at the same time, please note, it's sad, but we're dying anyway. If you check in different states, in my state, there's no week we're not burying young people from either someone died giving birth to a child. These are basic things. Or how many of us, all of us in our families have people who have died giving birth to a child. Is that not correct?
Yes, please.
All of us have people who have lost children because the hospital didn't do what it was supposed to do. Yeah. We have people who lost our parents because some parents, you know, because they didn't detect the thing properly, blah, blah, blah. Right now, our doctors are on a mass exodus.
And that's scary.
It's extremely scary. So the truth of the matter is, there's accidents. It happens on the road, people die. Unfortunately, even this last week, the fire incident in
Olodeco,
right? Yeah. There were reports that the fire trucks didn't even come. But we heard that some weeks ago, some fire trucks were branded. So, for example, now, the people, the office of the citizen, if that is a pain point for you, especially if you lost someone in that fire, or you're concerned and it makes you angry, then you should call for a public inquiry into why, when this fire was going on, why didn't these people come on time? Or why did the fire even happen in the first place? What happened? Were there lapses? Morning. Were there lapses in the fire? You know what I mean?
Yes,
so, I do. These are the things we don't do. We don't do these interrogations. Lagos State is even slightly better than the other states. It's just one tragedy after the other. It happens, we move on. It happens, we move on. Okay, look at the buses we're all riding and entering inside Lagos. Please, I'm sorry. Are those buses fit for human beings to enter?
No. Hell no.
Are we challenge our governor. I will challenge the brother running for president. I will challenge the commissioner of transport. When you go to France and you go to England and US for your holidays or your meetings, is that the kind of bus they are going around in? And you say we're the center of excellence? Are we serious?
We are.
Citizen. I hope one of you will take this thing up. Let us start calling for better buses. Those things are unsafe. They're unsafe. They're always jumping into the lagoon, anything, and we will die. We will cry. Oh, it is God. It's not God's will. I'm sorry.
Lord, see, this is
dying from foolishness.
Now, before I wrap up, I'm going to have to do a second time with you, and please permit me. Yes. We are going to do a part 2. We're going to do a part 2.
No, let's organize. We need better. We need much better from our government. It's ridiculous. Okay. It's too many things. We need better. One
more last question before they come and send me away. You're contesting for a seat in the Federal House of Rep elections under the ADC to represent the Kwande Uchongo Federal Constituency. Did I get that right?
In Benue State, absolutely. You got it. The most beautiful place in the world.
Now, what are you optimistic about?
I'm actually optimistic about the fact that in my constituency, as I've been campaigning, people are saying they're not interested in party. They're looking for candidates that will do the job. So character, competence. I'm in a smaller party. My father actually is a chieftain in one of the bigger parties. He said to me, "Yeah, why didn't you come to our party?" But I said, "Papa, you won't give me tickets." I said, "Number 2, even if I win, you people will not allow me to do the work." So I'm very excited about my campaign because I've said I'm doing an impact campaign. And the impact campaign, what it is that instead of just coming and doing rally and shouting and giving money that I don't have to people in the community to say, "Oh, vote for me." We're organizing volunteers. Right now, I have 132 volunteers signed up in that constituency. And our work is we're going to be going from community to community, doing community projects. Right now, dry season is coming. Water is a problem in my constituency. That's one of the biggest needs. So we want to see we can try and raise funds among ourselves from friends, well-wishers, people who love our community, or people who love me. And we want to say, for example, if there's water problem in one community, I have 26 wards. Let's sink a borehole. So I'm very excited about my campaign because I said, look, my campaign, I wanted to impact people. So by the time I finish campaigning, I will continue the projects after the elections. I believe I'm going to win. But anything can happen. I may not. But at least after the elections, we will continue. Whether we win or not, we need water, we need things in our community. So that's what I'm really excited about, the impact that I'm praying and hoping the campaign can have on the lives of everyone in my community. I'm very excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Well, my time is up. God is here with me. We're going to do a part 2. I'm going to come and look for you again.
No problem.
Like you're right. Thank you so much for joining in. Iye Jonathan Icheva. As you don't know how excited I am that I'm getting the name correctly. Anyway, to everyone who was called in, thank you so much. Like she has rightly said, and I pick is don't agonize, organize. Have a wonderful week, create opportunities for people. And because people will be people, keep creating opportunities. Have a wonderful week and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Well done. Yes, so we'll keep in touch, huh?
No problem.
All right. Thanks a lot. Bye.